Who wants to draw first? Do you have an idea? Because I was going to talk about it in our drawing. Yeah. But I need your help. And are we drawing? Oh, we only do one.
Hey, Joëlle. Hey, how's it going? On the other night.
I mean, they should all look at the same one, right? Okay. Joëlle, do you want to go first? Y'all want to go first? Okay. All right. So wait, you said you don't want to go first? But she's not here. What's that? Yeah. It's almost 5 past. She's fashionably late. Those Italians. So yeah, my name is Will Dennis. This is a distillery drinking draw panel. I see Ernie brought his kid, so that means I need to be PG at the worst here. Thanks, Ernie. That really blows my whole shtick. But I'm going to try to clean it up. I've been a little rough on some of these panels, so we're going to keep it between the lines today. Following along? Oh, are you guys going to draw along with this? No, there was a drawing manga panel before. But if you want to try to draw along, then you can come up to these artists afterwards and see, I can draw these too. That's always a good way to ingratiate yourself to an artist, is to tell them that you're as good or better than they are. It's like when I get pitches and they're like, it's just like Gone, but better. You know what I mean? Good, sign me up. That's the Publisher's Star review of Gone. So yeah, I think what we'll try to do, Mirka's on her way, but I'll try to talk to the people who aren't drawing, because it's very difficult to draw and talk at the same time, like walk and chew gum. So, and then Mirka, there's a language, and she talks with her hands, and it's the whole thing. So we'll start with Joëlle. Joëlle and I are going over the questions before, and we're just like, so where do you get your ideas? Which is the single worst question you can ever ask anyone. So don't, if Ernie, you're moderating a panel ever, don't ask where you get your ideas, okay? In the bathroom during the shower. So so Joëlle is, obviously you know her CV, but she's got a new project coming out from Distillery called Through Red Windows. It will be out this fall with Ron B. Maybe you heard of him. Yeah, it's like a urban horror sort of Edgar Allan Poe inspired elements of kind of Lovecraft kind of stuff, but with a very slick world of finance, like the Succession kind of world. So I think, yeah, it seems, it'll be an interesting project because it's got a lot of relevant themes, but then it's going to be very dark and sexy too. But I like to talk to artists about kind of their process, and even down to the minutiae of like their workspace and how they do things. So, I mean, Joëlle, you live in Idaho, is that correct?
Yeah.
That hotbed of comics that we're all so familiar with. So, I mean, so when Rom sends you a script, like what's the process at that point? Do you just start to sort of imagine this stuff yourself? Do you get on the phone with him and talk it over? Like, take us through, like, when he sends you that first chunk of script, like, what's your first move at that point?
I think every writer I work with is different.
Mm-hmm.
But with Rom, it's really fun because Rom's an artist too. And so we'll jump on the phone and he speaks like a visual language that I understand. So there's like a shorthand that takes place. And then he'll go off, write the script, I get it in, and I'll print it out, and then I doodle like my first impressions like in the margins. And then we'll move on to like roughs and things after that. And then it just gets tighter and tighter and cleaner as the process goes.
Mm-hmm. But so, are you working on actual physical board, or are you working like in that initial stage? If you want to send it, you send in layouts or sort of rough pencils, some sort of stage. How do you create those?
They're really messy. I don't usually I forget to send them in. I just like to keep like running through. somebody else called it this way, it's traditional.
Traditional?
Yeah,
That's
so
good, yeah.
I'll do layouts and pencils.
Yes, exactly, copyright.
I do digitally pencil and roughs. That way, well, I'm not wasting paper. But that way I can move things around.
Okay.
See if it's not working, I can lay all the pages out side by side. It doesn't take up all the space in my studio. I can just kind of see if it's flowing. So I'll do that digitally. And then pencil it, print it out in blue line. And then I'll ink on top of it with paper. And then back
On the actual paper.
Yeah, and then I'll put it back to digital and then do all the fun effects.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. Welcome, Mirka. Here, you're still here, still here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I remember years ago, here, Mirka, that's not on over there. So if you sit at this one here, it's okay?
I didn't get, sorry.
The microphone is not on over there, so here, sit here.
It's okay?
This one.
Ah, yes, there.
Yeah, sorry. And then we'll just get a sight you in. Sorry. Yeah, like I remember years ago when people started doing that, like I know Darwin Cook was like a big proponent of that, and I remember him telling Cliff Chang when they were working on some stuff together, like this is how, like it sort of just changes a whole lot. If they would pencil it out in the blue line, scan it, print them out, look, ink on that, but then if you had to make a change or you wanted to do something, because when I first started, changes, if you asked an artist for a patch, most of the time, like you get the physical board and it would literally be like pasted on, stuck on with, Scotch tape or whatever, like R.M. Guerra, who did Scalp, used to cut out the actual old panel and then lay the other one in and masking tape it down. So sometimes you get these things and they were almost like topographical drawing, like there'd be 2 or 3 levels to them. We even to the point where we had trouble, in those days they sent them out to be like photostated or whatever. And sometimes there'd almost be shadows or something, like around the edges of the panels because there were actual 3-dimensional patches on them. But, so when you're working on the pages though, do you tend to you want to lay out a bunch and then go back and do those pages, or are you just doing one page at a time and then start the next page, or,
Yeah, I've played around with a bunch of different ways to do it, but like over time what I found works for me is I like to take scene by scene. So that I'm staying like in the emotional pull, whatever it is.
Right.
I like to finish that entire scene up into inks, and then I'll move on to the next scene, and then color in one go.
Right, so yeah, you're doing a lot of the work in the color, right? I mean, are you in this one, we had lunch yesterday, breakfast yesterday, and you were saying you were trying to figure out exactly how much you wanted to do there. But I know like when we did that short story in the Devil's Cut anthology, like those colors were just like unbelievable, and it was clear that you were doing a lot of stuff in the colors, I mean, how did you learn, did you teach yourself the color? Did you have anyone that was sort of mentoring you over the years to how to color? Because it's a whole different animal than drawing.
That was the second thing I ever colored. I had to teach myself.
It was a what?
I had to teach myself the second thing I ever.
That was the second thing you've ever colored?
Yeah.
That's my first time.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Maybe you shouldn't have said that. Everyone thinks, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
My very first color job was Delusion #1 cover with you.
Really?
First cover. So as colour, so I had to learn in print like every month.
Oh my God.
Right on the shop.
All those covers were just like, so this is cover 2 was the second thing you covered? Oh my God. See, it's funny, like I work with these people now, that was almost 25 years ago, and it's like, that's the first I've heard of that, so, I don't know, when you've got 10 books at a time and you're running them and you're going, it's you don't always know. That's why in these panels I get an opportunity to talk to them about how they actually work. I know so little about how they actually physically, do what they do. Because to me it's kind of magic, right? I think to most people it is. Cool, so Mirka, thank you for showing up. We appreciate that.
And sorry about that.
No, it's fine, So yeah, what I was saying before was that you were just talking kind of more about process or how you actually work, you know. So now you just finished Blasphamous. A lot of the stuff you do, you write yourself and draw. And I know we talked a little bit at the other panel about this, but yeah, take us through that. Like when you actually write it, are you writing like a full script and then you start to draw it, or are you just you have the idea and then you start to kind of do what you do?
Well, I always start with an idea. Usually I write like a summary of the entire story, but I don't write a real script. When I have the idea in my mind, I go directly with the layout, and then after the layout, very rough layout, I do the inks, and then the color, and that's it.
So, but at those early stages, are you doing that physically on paper, or are you doing it digitally, or is it this, what do you call it, Joëlle? Tradigital? Okay. Yeah, in those early stages, how are you actually doing it?
The layouts, I consider that I think it's better for me on a very small book. I do fast layouts. All the entire story usually is on this little small book, and then I work again on the layouts in digital. I don't use those layouts. I use those layouts like a map for the story.
Okay.
But then the final layout, let's say, is in digital. It's all digital. The comic.
And you're working on a tablet of some kind?
Yeah, usually I work on both, on the Cintiq, the
Cintiq,
bigger
yeah.
one, or when I'm traveling, I travel a lot.
Yeah.
I work on the small tablet, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, do you have like a physical studio that you go to, or is it just at home, or what's that? Is it?
No, I have a physical studio. I'm very happy to have that because in this way I can go outside my home sometimes.
Yeah.
Once a day. And that's great. That's
Yeah,
why
no, it's true. That's the tough part. People think the freelance lifestyle must be fantastic, but it gives you all learned during COVID. Like leaves a lot to be desired when you're stuck in a little space all the time. So now, where do you live in Italy? You live in
Turin, in the north, is
Yeah.
near Milan.
Yeah, right. What other comic book people? I know. Who else is around where you are? Other comic book creators?
There are many.
Yeah.
There is Simone Di Meo. I won't forget anyone. But
I think Andrea Moody, wasn't he? Did he used to live there? Andrea Moody.
I am not sure.
Yeah.
Probably you're right.
He used to live there, and he lives in Florida now, which God knows why. Sorry, Florida, if you're in the house. Yeah. What about you, Joëlle? Do you work out of the home, or do you have like a studio? I don't know, rents in Idaho being what they are.
I lived in Portland for a really long time. I was in a shared studio, Periscope. They're called a Helioscope now. Like Steve Lieber, Ron Randall, and
Oh wow.
a bunch of artists. I did that for a really long time. But when I moved, I just have a studio in the house now.
So would you tend to keep, if you had do you tend to keep like more regular hours if you have a studio, or could you just go there at midnight and stay all night, or?
Yeah, there were many times that I was the only one in that Periscope studio. Everybody else seemed to be way better at keeping regular hours.
Yeah. What about you, Mirka? Do you tend to work try to work during the day, like a regular day, or do you just kind of, some people are like vampires, they work all night and they sleep during the day?
No, if I have a short deadline, I'm late, I work also until late, but I try to avoid it. I did in my past, and it's not a good idea in my opinion.
Yeah.
I suffer if I do that. So I'm trying to work since early in the morning. I prefer to wake up at 6 if I have, but to have all done for dinner. That's my goal.
Yeah, I find that true. Like I've had the fortune to work with a lot of Italian artists and artists from Argentina and elsewhere, and I think they do tend to do a slightly better job, I think, of like working, like having a regular life, and then they're off to the, having an aperitivo somewhere or whatever, and, relax a little bit, like it's a little bit more of a
I also have a
regular
friend
life.
that is a vampire.
Yeah.
She works at night, and she works for the American market. She do that because she prefers, because she said it's all the timing.
Yeah.
It's almost up.
Yeah, like we finished that project with Valeria, and they were like strictly like, midnight to 7. It was just like, okay. How we doing here, Jock? We got
How much time have I got?
um,
Trying to go quite quickly.
I guess we got about 50 minutes total, so that's like what?
20 minutes each.
Maybe 50, 20 minutes each, something like that. So you've got I don't know, 3 minutes left or something. So unless you got another thing. Although I'm sure these two would be happy if you just drew the whole time. Maybe they can just add little things onto the top,
Yeah.
Just have like,
Draw a little figure jumping off the top. Maybe just do 2 other things.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping we could just combine it onto one, honestly, like I'm not expecting you to draw 3, double page covers here, the time we have. What about you, Jock? Can you can talk and draw, or you okay, a little bit?
I'm doing some building stuff, so it's pretty kind of
Yeah.
draw a person. That's
Right.
Yeah, I try and keep kind of normal hours, but whenever I can,
Mhm.
10 to about 6. But the minute a deadline hits, and start doing evenings and Saturdays and Sundays.
Right.
But like Mirka was saying, I used to do all nighters, but you just can't keep it up. The older you get, the more years you do it, it's just kind of not healthy.
Right.
And then you burn out, and then you can't work in the day anymore. Anyway, because you're tired from staying out too late.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've got a little garden studio. I've just kind of down on an extra little bit of land, so my morning commute is like walking down there,
Mhm.
a cup of tea and shutting the gate behind me. It's quite stressful. And that's it.
And it does. Like if you picture like the Shire, like that's what it looks like. He posts pictures sometimes on Instagram. It'll say studio shot, and it's just this green hill with like a golden sun rising over it, and like and you're like, I don't see any studio there. Like what but it looks very ideal.
It's pretty good. It's kind of for Instagram, it's all crop, right? You can't see it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of nestled in woods behind.
Can't see the empty lot next to it with a dead car in it. But yeah, I've seen the inside the studio. But you tend to be. I mean, I know there's digital aspects, but I've seen when you're on like a really crazy deadline, where you've literally taped up the pages around the studio, right? So you can sort of see it in situ,
Yeah. And I lay them all on the floor as well.
Right, I've seen those pictures too, yeah.
Near the end, and I've got maybe 5 or 6 pages where I laid a whole issue on the floor. So there's often like Converse footprints on the pages and stuff. And what I did a Batman story called One Dark Night, and the deadlines were getting pretty bad. Like even on issue 1, we were kind of behind before we were even ahead. And I took a glass of red wine back down, and you see where this is going. There you go. I took a glass of red wine back down the studio, and I stupidly put it this side of my desk. I draw like this, and my pens are here. You should always put it to the side that you're not drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I went like that, and it went all over all the pages. I only lost 1, I reckon. It kind of destroyed about 6 or 7 of them, but I just went over it because my work's quite kind of messy.
Yeah.
Messy. And I could kind of figure it out with Tipex and ink. So if you look at that book, if you ever do like an artist edition, you'll just like they spot little, just tiny little red, like it's not even like faint red because I tried to blot it. And,
Right.
Yeah. So I'm an idiot.
Yeah, he's definitely sent me pictures like hostage, like proof of life photos, where you're like, hey, we're 5 pages short. And he's like, they're all being worked on, and it's like him standing over all these pages on the floor. You can just see his sneakers like at the bottom of the picture.
We were chatting about it the other day, though. I think it's really important. Well, it works for me not to be too precious about your own artwork. Like, let someone else be precious about it. But I remember years ago, a friend of mine had a comic shop, and do you know the artist Glenn Fabry? Painted covers, beautiful creature, Hellblazer. This was in the early 90s, and my friend Simon that owned the comic shop, Glenn lived nearby, and Glenn's a bit of a character, to say the least, but is that fair to say?
Sure.
But he came into Simon's shop with a painted Hellblazer cover rolled up in his back pocket, and I just thought, Yes, that's the way to do it.
What was it on? Was it on like canvas or something?
When I used to paint as well, we used to use this thing called CS10 board, which is like a board you can tear the paper off, so it can wrap around the drum stand around the stem.
Okay.
So it's CS10 board, then you tear it off. It's pretty nerve-wracking when you tear it off. So I just had it rolled up. Someone that's so good, so good at painting, like beautiful.
Is that a Hellblazer cover in your pocket, or are you just happy to see it? All right. Well, how far are you from being done here?
Yeah,
Unless one of the ladies wants to finish it for you. We made Joëlle draw. How many variant covers did you do for Gone? 3?
All three. The only person that is.
Yeah, that's right. You were like I think on all the issues, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, when you have to do something like that, right? Like we don't generally give you a lot to work on for Gone or anything in terms of, you know what I mean, particularly early on when there's just not that much stuff. You know, there might be a character sketch or there might be some stuff. I mean, when it comes to do a cover, do you prefer to have like a real specific brief, or do you just kind of, like I know with Rom on the covers for Through Red Windows, he's just sent kind of inspiration, you know, sort of, which I never had actually had anybody do that before necessarily. Well, I think Becky did it with on Somna, had a whole folder called Inspo or something, and it was that kind of stuff. But I mean, do you have a preference? Do you like, I mean, you've done a lot of work for DC and other companies. Do they probably give you fairly specific briefs, or they just, you know, in terms of what they want on the cover?
You'd think, but.
Yeah, you'd be wrong. Yeah.
Well,
right.
yeah, I think it's everybody thinks that it's a well-oiled machine, and it's just all comes together in a mess. And I have to find that the references are the wrong references, or you can't make out the details, or, you know.
Right.
But I really like parameters. I really like when they come at me with something story-specific, or something tricky, like, you know, for these issues we're going to be doing, you know, just these colors, or
Oh, really?
shadow.
Okay, yeah.
And I think when I'm given no parameters, you know, you get decision fatigue, and you just draw a blank, and it takes longer, and I don't know what to do.
Right.
So yeah, I like to be kind of pendant like that.
Yeah, I think, even like, I think we did you like dirty on the Gone covers at the end, because we were asked, because the first one you were really like, we had a lot of stuff, and it was like a moment kind of in the thing, and it was like, you really felt her aloneness, you know? But by the third one, because of the nature of the way, when you need the covers versus when you need the interiors, I don't think people understand how much time disparity there is between that, particularly if you need the materials for previews. That can be months, 3 months or more in advance of when it would actually be out. So he may even be finishing issue 2 while we need all these covers for issue 3. So I remember on that when you were like, do you guys have anything else that you could give me for this? Like any other ideas? And like, I don't want to bug him because he's deep in the pages and we're trying to get this stuff out. So Sean Edgar, who kind of helps run the DSTLRY variant program, and does a phenomenal job based on, you've seen the variants that we are able to get. But often it's a real credit to the artist because there's not a lot to go on. You know, you're sort of feeling like you're a little lost at sea. It's interesting though that you like, it makes sense that you would maybe like a little more direction. It's like when, I think we said it the other day, it's like when you used to have assignments in school and they'd be like, write about whatever you want, you know, and it was like, I'd rather just, you told me what you want me to write, you know.
And I think like parameters can push you to do things that maybe you've never tried before,
Right.
can make you a better artist. You learn on every project. But if it's just me in a room trying to figure out, like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that's
maybe
interesting.
she's flying, and then, you know, I've done that a million times.
It's interesting, that you would think that restrictions would make it more difficult on artists, but it actually becomes almost a challenge to try to figure out how
Right,
to
because we like to rebel.
make something cool and break some rules with it or whatever, and see what you can get away with, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that was our whole approach at Vertigo for years, was like, let's see what we can get away with. And Jock got away with a lot on those Losers covers, like even down to things like, you know, he used to incorporate the logo into almost all of the covers, like, you know, be on a parachute or be on a dollar bill or be, you know, that sort of, and I mean, that was years off my life fighting with those guys about, you know, how that was no, well, we need it in the top third because they won't you know, it's like, come on, like, look at this cover. Well, even the first cover, it's in the middle.
Yeah.
That was a huge battle, but it didn't like really work any other way.
Well, thank you, because I didn't realise Will was behind the scenes, like really pushing to let me do that, and actually that's informed my approach ever since. Because if you have that kind of freedom, it's great. But I speak to parameters as well. I think the thing about parameters is you can then push against them, right? I think if you've just got like nothing, you just like throw coins down the line.
Right.
I remember when we started doing Batman covers years ago, and so a similar thing. The story's not written, to start with, and I speak to my editor, who's great, but I'd sort of say, Black Mask is on the next cover, in the next issue, cover with him and Batman, and I'd be like, what's happening in the issue, and what are they doing? And every single time, I don't know, fighting. It's like, really? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Resolving conflict with violence. All right, so where are we at on this drawing?
Sorry.
It's all right. So you get a little insight into my editorial approach. Where the hell are we with this drawing? Oh, you meant 11 o'clock your time, not my time. Okay.
I pulled that a few times.
Yeah, you've definitely pulled that. Oh, no, I didn't mean end of day my day, I meant end of day your day. Yeah, I got into it with someone recently over deadlines, and they were like, oh, it's next week. I was asking for a deadline. And I was like, next week to a freelancer means Friday at midnight. So you tell me when you actually need it next week, because otherwise we're getting it on Saturday morning, and that's, as we should.
It's really weird. I would genuinely think that US time is up to say 11 p.m. That's a bit later than 11 p.m. for me. And there are many times if I get it in at 5 to 11, I think, oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's in. Nailed
of
it.
course,
Right.
for the editor, it's like, I've got to go home. I'm done. I'll finish it.
Until you live at home, and then you have nowhere to go. Exactly. All right, let's wrap this up. We're good. Now you're just showing off, right? The distillery guys are in the back saying, like, do we have to, escape?
All right, there you go.
Beautiful. That's amazing. Like, that didn't exist. We got about 12 minutes each or something. Think you can make something work?
Yeah.
Draw some other little characters on there. Oh, you're taking it away? Oh, I thought they were going to add it onto yours.
Oh, are we doing that?
No, all right.
What do you guys want to see?
You want to? Wait, you don't want to add it onto them?
No parameters.
Right.
Please, no. Dealer's choice. You do what you want.
All right, well, do it on the other. Do it on the other. Just give us a quick. Yeah, you can. All right. Do your own. Do your own. Steve Dillon used to do like headshots at the Vertigo booth. You weren't really supposed to get stuff signed, but he could do any preacher character without lifting the marker from the page.
Yeah.
Like, it was unbelievable. Like, he could do like Jesse Custard and just like whoosh, whoosh, do the face. It was like basically all connected, just show you the little like, priest collar and like hand it back to the person. But then when Eduardo Riso used to have to do him, he draws like literally, like, he doesn't do any underdrawing, he just draws on a blank page, which is absurd, but he's yeah, so he could do one sketch, it would take him 2 hours because it was like basically like a finished page, The line would be backing up, everyone's freaking out.
I remember the first few signings at DC Funny, that Fletch was like, Jock, move on. Because people would sort of say, can I have 5 characters? And I was
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's just start
Mirka, like when you're at shows in Italy and stuff, do you do a lot of sketching like at the booth? I've been to some Italian shows and they're not big on lines in Italian shows. It's more like just like a crush of people at your table, Do you do a lot of drawing and stuff like at those shows, or do you just do the signings and pass it along?
No, to be honest, when I go to Italy in conventions, I just do the signing at the publishers. I never do the artisale, almost never. There are a few conventions where there is a very good artisale and I do that.
But in general, in Italy, artist alley are less a thing compared to here. So usually I go for a publisher doing the signing, sketches on the books for the readers.
Mm-hmm. So like when you're doing your own covers, right? Because you're doing like everything. So so there isn't someone giving you like, oh, do this or do that, right? I mean, do you find is there an essential part of a cover that you're trying to, like, how do you know that you've nailed like the main cover, for instance, Because you ended up having to do a lot of covers for Blasphamous, right?
Yeah. You mean how I figure out the cover?
Yeah.
Well, for example, the first cover I wanted to make Livia, the main character of Blasphamous, as to look like an old saint painting. So there is this central figure. I tried to use that kind of iconography. Sorry, my English.
Yeah, iconography.
Iconography, thank you. And that's my main goal. My main goal with covers is trying to let me understandable the mood of the comic.
Mm-hmm.
And Blasphemous, the title talks itself. I wanted to play with this pop star being worshipped as a god.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I try to do on every cover of.
Okay, cool. Maybe, I don't know, should we start to maybe see if there's any questions that we could talk over while they're working? Anyone got a question? There's a microphone here if you're brave enough to come up to it, or else I could repeat the question.
Any question apart from where'd you get your ideas from?
Were you here for that? Yes. Yeah, over here in the building side.
Quick question, I think
Did you use the mic? Sorry, otherwise we weren't in it, and everyone else wouldn't. Sorry, man.
Yeah, I get in trouble if you don't use the mic.
I get you in trouble.
No, my penalty is I never get to do another panel. Okay.
Todd from New Jersey. Do you folks prefer to do like more like mainstream, i.e. like Marvel, DC versus some of the independent, comics that you folks work on, or I guess are both equally satisfying to you in different ways?
I love drawing characters, Batman, Wolverine. I love drawing characters, but there is something very special about drawing your own stuff. Hence, why we're all set up here with DSTLRY, because they've been an amazing partner in just letting us make our own original stories, and that's really special to have that in the mainstream and support you in the way that they have. But again, it's always fun to. I love drawing Batman, and it's great, of course, but it's kind of. They sort of flex different muscles, I think, is maybe the true answer. Like, you sort of find it's enjoyable doing some of the more kind of sandbox mainstream stuff. But I grew up reading 2000 AD in the UK, and actually that all read like an alternative comic, so it was never really mainstream, really. And I've been lucky, I'd say, that so the style that I have isn't particularly superhero or mainstream, but it suits some things, and luckily Batman's one of them. So it's just kind of worked out that I get to still do the way I want to do it, but I have fun playing with characters. But also it's been amazing doing our own stuff too.
I think I might let them question. We need them to finish by the end of this panel, or there's going to be big ramifications. So it'd be good to see me in action too. This is a little bit of insight to what my life is.
Going to ask something to Joëlle, but if she's busy, then
No, I'm sure she can.
So Joëlle, do you think you'll ever come back to Lady Killer, perhaps, possibly at DSTLRY? I don't know what the rights are with it.
I'm doing the third series ish now. I released a few chapters online for a little bit. I took them down now because I kind of want to put it all together. But yeah, I've got like 2 chapters left to go, and then a lot of obligations in between. So it's always in my studio and like yelling at me to get to it, and I miss it so much. But there's no way I can leave it for too long.
I wish you could see Mirka. She's just kind of just blown me out of the water in about 3 minutes. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joëlle too. It's just like, here you go.
She's doing a masterpiece. Mine is easy.
No, it just looks easy. Go ahead, sorry.
Hi, I'm Josh from Nebraska.
Hey, Josh.
My question is, like Joëlle, you had said when you didn't have enough direction for that Gone issue 3, that kind of like, what do I do? So for all three of you guys, when you get in those situations, like how do you have to pause and step away from the project? How do you try and get those creative juices to start flowing again when you kind of hit a roadblock for a moment?
Yeah, do you have like a standard, is there like a fallback idea or notion that you kind of keep going back to at times when you're stuck?
So apart from like Batman fighting, the main time when I started to learn that I was doing Scouts, which is again with Will, a Vertigo series. I did nearly all of the 60 issues. And yeah, at most there'd just be a little line from Jason Aaron roughly about the thing. So for me, that I had to lean into theme rather than actual, if that makes sense. And like, I think a lot of the problem with a lot of comic covers is that they're very literal. They're either the hero's looking cool, the hero's fighting, the hero's in a good pose. You know, and it's more like an illustration than an idea, if that makes sense. And I've always loved doing covers that are ideas. I think it elevates a cover when there's a bit more to it, you know, and it describes the kind of story inside in a visual way. I've always loved doing that stuff. So with Scout, even though it was kind of very loose, I just tried to find kind of you know, thematic stuff. It's a bit of a boring answer, but it's true that.
No, but I mean, I know what you mean. Like,
when
you talk about Scout, I think it was the second to last issue. It's like where the casino burns down. And yeah, we talked about it, and you were sort of, I remember distinctly, like kind of, and you had some 2 or 3 rough ideas, and you sent them in, and one was literally just this shape of what looked to be a building or something on a horizon line, and the rest of it just was, and that's the one we ended up with. It was like just an orange cover that looks just like a huge fire burning, and then just the hint on this horizon line of like a building on fire, you know what I mean? Like really not much else.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it's funny, yeah, I mean, DC, even Vertigo, I think people have expectations that there's these overlords and everything, as Joëlle said, it runs like clockwork and you better not step out of line. But I mean, we got away with a lot of cool shit over the years. Like that's a cover that any publisher would probably feel a little hesitant to, you know, publish because there's just not much to it, you know? I mean, it's like if the third cover had gone, it'd just been like space and like a little speck in the bottom, you know, like, I mean, it could be cool, but you would also be like, well, is there anything else you can make?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we did get away with a lot of like really kind of pushing the envelope stuff, you know.
You're right that the fact it was issue 59 out of 60 definitely helped.
Yeah, because
by that point.
You're right, yeah.
Sure.
Well, right, because when I used to write the solicitation copy, I distinctly remember the solicitation copy for 100 Bullets 99, which is the second last issue, was not a jumping on point. And they didn't go for it. And then issue 100, it just said, it all ends here. But they didn't go for that either. I had to write another stupid bullet, like as if someone hadn't read the first 99, was not going to buy issue 100. But, you know. Sorry, this turned into a therapy session for me. My PTSD is showing. So yeah, your question, get us back on track here.
Cool, hi, my name's Sharon from Arizona. First, thanks for drawing in front of a bunch of people. I know that can be very intimidating, so thank you for
You're welcome.
my question is, you guys have talked in other panels about working in the larger format, and you guys go traditional, switching from, you know, digital to traditional. Can you talk a little bit about how it's been working on the larger format and what tools you use?
Yes. Great. So working at Distillery, you mean the pages are larger? Yeah. Which, I really like it. Lots of friends say different things. I personally really like it. It gives me more room, gives me a bit more scope in the pages. I found like traditional 11x17 to be a little bit small, and I had like more up here than I could get on the page, if that makes sense. And the larger scale, so it lets me cut loose a little bit more. I did I had a kind of test run with my Batman books. That was Black Label, and that was the same format, a larger size, bigger pages, and I just really enjoyed it. But I know some people, you know, the board's massive, but some people just kind of scale it down and make it smaller. So I think it's a different preference for everyone, I'd say. How about you?
I missed the question.
The big pages.
Oh, I haven't done any yet. Yeah, I'm still waiting for my paper. Nobody gave me any paper.
Is DSTLRY in the room?
That'll keep me up at night. My hair used to be red, now it's gray. Go ahead, sorry.
Hi, John from Arizona. I'm really curious about when your original projects are licensed out for movies. Lady Killer, there's a project over at Netflix that was announced years ago, I'm not sure what that is. But how much involvement do you have in those projects once they are in the care of somebody else?
I think it just depends on how good your lawyer is. Yeah, you can be completely hands off, or you can fight with the producer. And definitely companies where you're as a creator owned, you get a lot more of a voice in the room.
Yeah, it varies, to be honest, and I think it does vary as well as just the legal side and what your appetite for that is. I think luckily now with so many comic book stuff doing really well, studios are more open to having the creators on board, and in fact, that might sort of, that's probably a good thing for them because it feels like it's more appropriate to what we did. So we've got a book called Witches that we did, Image Comics, which is currently.
I love that book.
Thank you. It's in production at Amazon right now. It's an animation, and Scott Snyder's co-show running and writing in the writers' room. I'm creative producer, so I oversee all the visuals and with the animation studio. It's super collaborative. They love having us on board, basically, which is really nice. It's like, you can hand it off and it can become something else. But again, it depends what your appetite is. I love still having a hand in the adaptations, and I've had stuff adapted before. But I thought when I saw the final thing, I thought it would feel like an extension of the book I had done, and it didn't. It felt like something completely different with the same looking people. It was really an odd experience, like an odd feeling, because I thought it was going to sort of, it was the losers that took the world as well. And there was, the film, the cast is amazing, all of it, and they looked like they got, but they sort of, the stuff in it happened for different reasons, and it was funnier than the comic, and Andy had, I think, arguably more jeopardy than the film. So it just became something very different, right? So, but with Witches, we're fully on board. Our hands are all over it, so I'm excited about where it's going. We've just got the first animation test, and it basically, their aim is to make it look as close to the comic as they can, which for an animation is quite cool. All the spatters and everything, that spatters all over it, moving around. It's hopefully pretty cool.
Cool. Thank you. So you know who to blame when Witches
essentially.
Essentially. No. Yeah, I've seen even the little bits I've seen of it. It's so exciting just to see something you've read and you're familiar with. You're just like, whoa, this is weird.
Yeah.
It's awesome though. Hey, this I guess the last question probably. So make it a good one.
Sure, yeah.
No pressure.
So Comic-Con International partners with local libraries here in San Diego, and we have a Comic-Con.
Right, library.
So I'm part of a comic book club, and we've read a couple of your books, Joëlle, one being Lady Killer, and most recently Helheim. So if you could help me win a bet with my book club, what percentage of Rickart's soul remains in him, and how much is it the other souls that he's kind of taken within him?
I didn't have this question on my panel bingo card.
Very specific, I'm sorry.
No, that's fantastic.
Gosh. Yeah, I wouldn't even remember his name had you not just said it.
There's another insight.
I can't, that is a question for Colin because he's got a bonkers brain, and I couldn't pin him down on so much of it. He's just like, I don't know, there's this, and he threw things in, and then he's got claw hands, and you're like, what is happening? Yeah, you'd have to ask him. I can't remember. We were supposed to do a third series, but our schedules just never lined up. But I love working on this.
So we loved it too, so thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I kind of wish Joëlle just went 64%.
And going down. I love that you have a library book club and you're reading Lady Killer, so it's an all ages club. You guys, any locals that want to join, just see her after the panel.
Chula Vista Library.
Right. Are you kids in the front here? Like, let's go. You'll learn a thing or two about life from Lady Killer, let me tell you. That book is beautiful, but / hair raising. So we're here at the end here, Mirka. Like, this is the part that I always am so fascinated by. Like, when do you know when to end, right? Because Jock and I, like, I've seen him, sat next to him drawing lots of times, and there was famously, he did this little Batman drawing. It was on like a canvas, and it was a awesome little headshot of Batman, and then he got out this orange pen out of nowhere and scribbled all over it, and I just leaned over and said, "You ruined it." And he was just like, "I did, didn't I?" But he gave it to me, and I gave it to my son, who's a huge fan of like all of these guys, and Jock in particular, and he has it on his like nightstand, basically, this like, you know, point
A
of...
note from his dad saying, "Could be better."
You're right, exactly. Know when to stop. Right.
There's that, is it Picasso quote? It says, you know, art isn't finished, it's just left in interesting places.
Right. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, Walt Whitman was revising Leaves of Grass right up to the day he died. So, I think I don't know. A lot of times, I think in pop culture stuff, and even in comics, like it would be fun to kind of revisit some stuff and see, you know, because you never have enough time to do what you want to do. But this is good. So. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up, but, you know, thank you for coming, and, you know, please let me give it up for these amazing panelists. It's a very solitary job, and to have them come and do it in front of you is a big lift, so, you know, I really appreciate that you all came and were willing to do this in front of people. But also, thank you all for the support of DSTLRY and the books. You've been amazing, and if you want to continue to support them, I think Blasfamous is out in a collection soon. Dawn is out now, or very soon, right? Imminently. Joelle's book will be out this fall. So, you know, really, the best thing you can do is, you know, keep buying the books and support these amazing creators. So, hold on. Mirka's signing. That's David Steinberger, ladies and gentlemen, from DSTLRY. What time's your signing? 3? All right, she's signing at 3. Like, so if her hand's not too cramped from this drawing session, she'll sign your comics. But thank you again for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. No, thanks again for coming to the panel.
Get out of the way.
Good? Sweet, okay, thank you.
I have food on.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to.
What?
And then he also mentioned that,
they're doing something like actually close. Exactly. Right, we're collecting these, you know. Yeah, we'll take it. I guess she needs one more picture, then we better get out of here. Oh, one each. Okay. Okay, yeah, everyone's good. 3. Hello. Jock, you doing any more signing?
Yes, 1:30. That's 4901.
1:30.
1:30.